So today I am going to continuing with the conductive thread of the topic about Saturn and attending to the request of the followers. I will speak you once more of Saturn. Saturn is domiciled in Capricorn. It is the classic regent and Uranus is modern regent of Aquarius. It's exiled in Cancer and Leo. It's exalted in Libra, that is law and justice, and fallen in Aries. We must always observe the sign and the house where Saturn is in the birth chart. If a person wishes to change his destiny, if a person wishes to recognize the cross that governs him or her, or the influence of the four most important areas of the horoscope. If a person wants to work on the formation of his or her character and on the construction of his or her four pillars of the life, the first step is to request a exhaustive astrological report. Many people tell me, Orissa, I am in Saraswati. I ask, how do you know it's Sati? No, it's Sati and other things. To know for sure how the planetary influences are manifesting in our life, we have to ask for advice with an excellent professional. We look for the information in groups, forums, online pages, and this information helps us to understand certain things, but in a very generalized way. So, always my recommendation is to request an astrological report. Saturn can be found in other signs that are not domicile, nor exile, or nor exaltation, or nor fall. Saturn can be found in pilgrim sign, where it is not weak nor it's strong. When Saturn travels a pilgrim sign like now, we must harness the energy of Saturn to cultivate Saturnine qualities. Saturn transits Sagittarius today. So all people who are between the age of 29 to 32 are fallen the effects of first return of Saturn. People born between 1985 and 1988 were born with Saturn in Sagittarius by tropical system, and people born between 1956 and 1959 who are between 59 to 62 are also feeling the effects of the return of Saturn in their birth sign. All these days I have done analysis of people born with Saturn in aspect of trine to the Sun, and one of my faithful followers asked me to speak deepen in this aspect. The trine is a 120-degree aspect, but we must remember that Western astrology takes into account approximate degrees, that is arbitrary of action between planets, while the first house, the fifth house and the ninth house are the 120 degrees with each other and are called trikona in Vedic astrology. If we have the sun in a sign of fire, for example, if we have the sun in Leo and all the fire signs like Aries, Leo and Sagittarius, and we have Saturn in Aries or Sagittarius, both planets are in favorable aspect. The trine aspect that is drawn in the Western birth charts usually is presented in blue color, and the blue aspect, trine and sextiles, and related to the energy of Jupiter, that is they are facilitating, expansive and harmonious. But remember, we must consider the sign and the house where both planets are. we saw in the analysis that I did about Gurmeet Ramrohim Singh. Gurmeet was born with the sun in Leo, that is sign of domicile, strengthened with the conjunction of Jupiter to the sun, excellent aspect. Both planets in trine to Saturn. The trine aspect facilitated his activity as an artist, creative person, musician, and spiritual leader, there is no doubt. But Saturn is in its sign of fall, that is Aries, so he had no control over his desires. Saturn in Aries weakens because it is the young sign, impulsive, combative of the zodiac, while Saturn is controlled, mature, and wise. In addition to these, Mars, the ruler of Aries, is in Scorpio sign, associated with sex. This is a planetary weakness that influences the individual who is unable to control over his low passion and succumbs fall due to his lack of character. Ramrohim have a lot of ego, charisma, creative art, and enjoy himself. Aries and Leo are the sexual sign as per excellence, while Scorpio talks about the psychological state with respect to the sex of an individual. Aries and Leo speak more of the action of the sexual act in the physical and non-psychological. But the only way of controlling the physical act is recognizing the psychological. Saturn arrived in Sagittarius and Ramrohim brought to justice because Saturn isn't trine but fall in Aries. Saturn transits Sagittarius for a few more months, and this position is very significant. Attentive those who were born with Saturn in Sagittarius. If Jupiter is regent of Sagittarius and represents the values, the principles, the ethics, the superior mind, Saturn is the regulating principle. Those who born with Saturn in Sagittarius are really very lucky because Saturn gives concentration. Sagittarius is present in all the myths of history, including the myths of India, especially the myths contained in the Vedas. Sagittarius is related to archers. We all know that Lord Rama broke the bow of Lord Shiva. So Saturn is a regulating principle. Saturn is exalted in Libra because we must all learn to regulate our energies, to regulate our forces, especially our sexual forces, because the sexual energies are creative energies. We know that Arjuna managed to hit the mark. Arjuna was the fully manifest expression of concentration and action. Thus, all that a native needs with the Saturn in Sagittarius is to model his character and concentrate his or her energies in one direction. And we know that Arjuna managed to give in the eye of the fish. He managed to reach his goals. Sagittarius represents our dreams, goals, objectives, and Saturn represents the concentration and precision needed to achieve it. Saturn in Sagittarius is good for astrology practice because an astrologer needs precision in his analysis. Obviously, there are other configurations to study science and astrology. But Saturn is the lord of time, and the base of astrology today are predictive techniques. It takes a lot of precision to be assertive. Saturn is slow but sure. We must understand that Saturn has no hurry. He knows. He is sure to reach the goal. Saturn in Sagittarius possesses an initiatory path of maturation. When Saturn forms trine to the Sun, we identify with concrete realities. We perceive spirituality in a mature and practical way. Saturn in harmonic contact with the Sun preserves the joy and the brightness of the Sun. It preserves self-esteem and individual value. The Sun represents our individuality. Thus, Saturn is the regulator of our five senses and all that we perceive through these five senses. But Saturn in Sagittarius is pilgrim. Saturn in Sagittarius prepares to go to a higher level. So this word pilgrim is very significant because a pilgrim is not just a traveler. A pilgrim is a student, a person who is constantly becoming a teacher through practical knowledge. Saturn in Sagittarius experiments, learns and orders. There are people who fail to take advantage of these energies by ignorance because his or her environment or space had been not favorable. For that reason, we make the journey of the four pillars of life. If we know where we come from, we will also know where we are going. Saturn in Sagittarius helps us to restructure our minds. Remember, knowledge has power, but today we have the influences of Pluto in Capricorn and we use the power of destroy. Pluto is a destructive energy. Saturn also represents power, authority. So, Saturn in Sagittarius in trine to the Sun in Leo, the greatest knowledge is to know yourself, recognize the potentialities brought and through that recognition gain authority. Saturn in trine to the Sun promises riches, achievements, creation of own realities, all the achievements that do not arrive before or after, nor by whim. Achievements arrive in a timely manner and are maintained over time. What Jupiter gives us, Saturn usually takes away. What Saturn gives us, only Saturn takes it away. Direct case, the case of Ram Rahim. So Saturn only demands one thing to its natives, ethics. An ethical person, Saturn stretches to the hand to him and raises it to the top. I invite you to follow the next videos about Saturn, the most feared planet in the West. The Indians fear in the influence of Rahu rather than the influence of Saturn. But even Saturn helps us to reconcile the energies of the nodes. So friends, at the end, I am telling you, remember and please remember to subscribe my YouTube channel and sharing the good that is shared is multiplied. So thank you for listening and watching me and love you all.